Today is Saturday, and as usual, Emily went to the gym for her yoga session. Although she usually has to work, every Saturday is her dedicated fitness day, and she leaves early in the morning and doesn't return until the evening. I also followed my usual routine of tidying up the house, creating a warm and comfortable living environment for the two of us. Emily has had a safe in our bedroom since we got married, which she treasures dearly. I once asked her what was inside, and she took out two adorable dolls, telling me they were childhood companions and very important to her. I believe everyone should have their own private space in childhood memories, so I have always respected her privacy, never asking more or trying to open the safe. Today, perhaps in her rush to leave, she forgot to close it. On top of the safe was a dark red lace lingerie piece that I had never seen before, with some yellowish stains on it. Upon closer inspection, I realized it had a faint smell of milk and seemed to have been there for a long time. Emily and I don't have a child, so how could there be milk stains on her lingerie? Moreover, Emily has always been conservative. In all our years of marriage, I have never seen her wear such sexy lingerie, usually sticking to basic black and white styles. Next to it was a diary, and the first page read, "Today I finally became a mother." When the child was drinking milk, I felt a deep connection. I am so happy, I want to remember this day forever. My heart sank, and my rationality almost collapsed in an instant. Emily and I have been married for 2 years, and she repeatedly told me she wasn't in good health and didn't want children. Considering her health and my own flexibility, I thought as long as we were happy together, it didn't matter if we didn't have a child. After all, I loved her for who she was and even gave up the idea of having a child for her. But now, I couldn't believe what was happening before my eyes. I continued to rummage through the safe, finding various baby items, pacifiers, baby clothes, and toys, each labeled with a date. Matching the dates, I flipped through the diary. August 10, 2021, they say breastfeeding makes the child smarter. I hope the baby grows up healthy. April 20, 2022, weaning the child off breast milk and switching to a pacifier. The baby cried a lot, it was heartbreaking. Today is Saturday, I finally got to see the child again. It's been a whole week, I wonder if the baby still feels close to me. As I read further, my hands trembled uncontrollably, and a voice in my head kept telling me it couldn't be true. But as I traced back the dates, each entry about the child coincided with Emily's outings. One date stood out the most, one I would never forget. It was our first wedding anniversary. There was a heavy rainstorm outside, and Emily and I planned to spend a romantic evening at home. I had prepared various gifts and surprises, and a candlelit dinner. Just as we were enjoying the moment, she received a message on her phone, shattering the warm atmosphere. Emily stood up in a panic, packed her things, and was about to leave without any explanation. Concerned about the storm, I stopped her and asked, and she said there was an urgent issue with a project at work. She refused my offer to drive her to the office, leaving in a hurry after a few words. Now, I finally found the answer in the diary. That day, the child had suddenly fallen ill with a fever, so she left in a rush. Fortunately, the fever subsided later. The so-called dolls were actually items she had prepared for the child, kept as mementos, having nothing to do with her childhood. John couldn't believe what he was seeing. His hands trembled as he flipped through Emily's diary, each entry revealing a truth more painful than the last.
No! This can't be true!
His mind raced back to their first wedding anniversary. The night Emily had left abruptly, claiming a work emergency.
She lied to me. She wasn't at work, she was with the child.
John felt his heart break as he pieced together the timeline. Emily had been pregnant a year before they married. The child was born the same year they wed.
How could she do this to me?
He remembered the time Emily was supposedly sent abroad for work. He had supported her, sent her messages, and covered her expenses, never suspecting the truth.
She had a child with someone else.
His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the door opening and Emily's voice calling out.
John! I'm back. Why didn't you answer my calls?
John saw the missed calls on his phone, realizing he had been lost in thought for hours. He turned to see Emily in a bright white dress, looking serene.
Weren't you going to yoga? Isn't it inconvenient to wear a dress?
Emily paused briefly but quickly recovered.
Of course, I wouldn't wear a dress to yoga. My workout clothes got soaked with sweat, so I threw them away.
She leaned against him, her eyes sparkling with a crescent moon smile.
John, you don't think I'm wasteful, do you?
John felt nothing but pity for himself, remembering how she never took her yoga clothes when she went out. She must have been taking supplies to her lover and the child.
All right, did I stay out too long? Were you bored at home alone? I got your favorite sushi, so don't be mad at me, okay?
John turned away, tears streaming down his face. He spent the night smoking in the living room, unable to confront her. It was such a small matter, yet it stopped me from asking the questions burning in my mind. To outsiders, we were the perfect couple, envied by many. These everyday moments used to make me feel loved.
Emily, did you drink milk?
Of course not. You know I don't drink milk. I accidentally got splashed by a girl carrying milk on my way home. I need to take a shower now, I can't stand this smell.
I didn't call out her flimsy lie, just watched her leave with a heavy heart. Knowing her, if she had really been splashed with milk, she would have immediately found a hotel to shower and change. But now, for someone I didn't know and a child, all her principles were broken. After her shower, she used the excuse of being too tired from exercising to go straight to bed, wearing modest cotton pajamas. Despite our emotional closeness, our physical relationship was strained. Every night when I approached her, she would deliberately avoid me, citing past trauma. But this didn't match the image of the sexy lingerie she kept in her safe. Even though we slept in the same bed, we were not as intimate as typical couples. Instead, she kept her distance, as if I were a threat. Counting the times we were intimate after marriage, it was rare, maybe twice a month at most. Facing away from Emily, tears streamed down my face, my body trembling. I didn't dare make a sound, so I got up and spent the night smoking in the living room. The next day, Emily slept in late and then started her usual routine of working on her laptop. While she was in the bathroom, her computer kept pinging with messages. Driven by an inexplicable urge, I opened her chat window. A black and white profile picture of a man appeared, with just an emoji as the contact name. He was sending her messages continuously.
Emily, I miss you so much. Can you come today? Emily, the baby keeps asking for you. Emily, the child wants to go out and play. Can you send more money?
The more I scrolled through the chat history, the heavier my heart became. This account not only called Emily wife, but she was also constantly transferring money to it.
10,000, 20,000. As long as the person on the other end asked, Emily would generously send money without hesitation.
Emily did have large expenses from time to time, and she told me that women should spend more on themselves. As her husband, I felt it was my responsibility to make her happy and fulfilled, especially since our financial situation was stable. So I never opposed, and even supported her investing in herself, giving her my credit cards to use freely. I always wanted to give her the best, fearing she might feel insecure. When I scrolled up to May 2022, my hands clenched tightly, feeling as if a giant hand was squeezing my throat, making it hard to breathe. This was around 6 months after we got married, and at that time, Emily and I were expecting a child.
When we found out, I was overjoyed, but Emily seemed worried. Emily, what's wrong?
John, I'm not ready to be a mother yet, and my health has always been poor. I'm afraid it might affect the child.
During that time, to take care of her and the child, I woke up early and stayed up late, meticulously preparing various meals and home arrangements. I searched online for parenting tips and advice on caring for pregnant women, and asked around for the best hospitals and postpartum care centers. I wanted to do everything I could to ensure their health. But my hopes were shattered by an irreversible tragedy. Emily accidentally drank alcohol at a company dinner, which led to a miscarriage. We lost the child, and despite my own grief, I had to stay strong to comfort and care for Emily.
I'm sorry, Michael, I couldn't protect our child. It's all my fault. I've let down the child, and I've let you down. The doctor said that if I tried to have another child, it would be very hard on my body.
I thought it was all an accident, and even though she drank the alcohol herself, I chose to trust and respect her. Considering her health, I never brought up having children again. But now, after reading the chat history, I realized it wasn't like that at all. In the chat records, Emily sent a series of messages to the other party. I accidentally got pregnant. What should I do? I can't have a child with him. My love is only for our child. I've made up my mind. I'm going to terminate this pregnancy. I put something harmful in the drink, and this child won't survive. Reading this, my heart felt like it was being torn apart, as if sharp blades were slicing through me. My unborn child, who hadn't even had a chance to see the world, was deprived of life by their own mother. I felt sorrow for the child and for myself. At that moment, I realized that if she had truly just accidentally drunk the wine, how could she have gotten so drunk? If she had any intention of being a mother and caring for the child, why would she touch alcohol? Clearly, she was afraid the dose wasn't enough, so she drank several bottles in one go to ensure the pregnancy was terminated. The chat records included more explicit photos and messages. These were sides of Emily I had never seen before. My heart felt hollowed out, and the evidence of our love turned into daggers stabbing at me. Betrayal swept over me as I shakily took photos of the evidence and saved the guy's WeChat ID. Suddenly, I heard a noise from the bathroom, and I quickly returned to my seat, pretending nothing had happened.
John, I think I heard my computer ping with a work message. Did you see anything?
I stared at Emily for a long time, making her face turn pale, before pretending nothing had happened.
What's the big deal about a work message? Why are you so nervous? Afraid I'll see something?
Humph, you just like to tease me.
That night, I found a private investigator and provided all the evidence I had gathered. A few days later, videos and photos were sent to my phone. What I saw were images of Emily with a man in his 30s, looking quite ordinary. In the photos, they were very intimate, with the man holding a child and Emily carrying a bunch of baby items. Was this man the biological father of Emily's child? I couldn't believe what was unfolding before my eyes. I rummaged through the safe, finding various baby items, pacifiers, baby clothes, and toys, each labeled with a date. I flipped through the diary, matching the dates.
August 10, 2021, they say breastfeeding makes the child smarter. I hope the baby grows up healthy. April 20th, 2022, weaning the child off breast milk and switching to a pacifier. The baby cried a lot. It was heartbreaking. Today is Saturday. I finally got to see the child again. It's been a whole week. I wonder if the baby still feels close to me.
My hands trembled uncontrollably as I traced back the dates. Each entry about the child coincided with Emily's outings. One date stood up the day of our first wedding anniversary. There was a heavy rainstorm, and we planned to spend a romantic evening at home. Just as we were enjoying the moment, she received a message and left in a panic, claiming it was a work emergency. Now, the diary revealed the truth. That day, the child had fallen ill with a fever. Emily left in a rush to attend to the child. The so-called dolls were mementos for the child. When I returned home, Emily was already sitting at the door waiting for me, her face filled with anger.
Emily, tone, angry, why didn't you transfer the money to me? I spoke to you so humbly, and you just wanted to embarrass me in front of my colleagues, didn't you?
David, tone, cold colleagues? What colleagues? The ones you share a bed with?
Emily, tone, shocked. David, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
I had no intention of arguing further and threw the prepared divorce papers in front of her.
David, tone, serious, let's get a divorce. You leave with nothing.
Emily, tone, fearful. John, are you really going to divorce me over such a small amount of money? We can get through the company's difficulties together. I don't want to leave you. Why do you want to divorce me? Is it because you don't love me anymore and have found someone else?
David, tone, almost laughing. Love? Do you even know what that means, Emily?
I directly threw the milk-stained lingerie in front of her.
David, tone, serious, didn't you say you were not in good health and couldn't have children? Then whose child is this?
Emily finally panicked, losing her usual calm composure, and hurriedly grabbed my hand.
Emily, tone, pleading. John, how can you accuse me with something like this? How could I possibly have such lingerie?
I shook off her hand in disgust and pulled out a disinfectant wipe to clean my hands thoroughly.
David, tone, serious, you know what's in the safe. If there's nothing else, just sign the papers and move out today. Let's part ways amicably.
Emily, tone, shocked. You knew? How could you go through my things without permission?
I sneered inwardly. If I hadn't accidentally discovered these things, who knows how long she would have kept me in the dark. How could she still have the audacity to question me about going through her things?
Emily, tone, unfriendly. So what if you know? Do you really have to divorce me? How can you be so petty, unable to tolerate the existence of a child?
Narrator, tone, angry, my fists clenched tightly. This was the most shameless thing I had ever heard. She had been unfaithful, and yet she blamed me for being narrow-minded and unable to accept her child? My expression grew darker as Emily continued to chatter incessantly.
If you want a divorce, fine, but there's no way I'm leaving empty-handed.
What do you mean by that?
I've already asked around, and I know your company is really going bankrupt. Before that happens, you must give me 60% of your assets. Otherwise, don't even think about getting a divorce.
Fine, if you don't want a divorce, I'll take legal action against you. Then your lover will end up in jail.
Ha, are you trying to scare a child, David? Having a child with someone else isn't illegal, and they can't interfere with my family matters. If you really want a divorce, you'll regret it.
Emily packed her belongings, taking her valuables and daily necessities, and turned to leave. She didn't understand that a man can admit his mistakes to his wife at any time, except in matters like this. Once love loses its loyalty, it ceases to be love. Emily left for half a month, during which she kept stalling the divorce. During this time, I knew she was living with that man. I hired a lawyer and provided evidence that Emily had a child before our marriage to deceive me and cohabited with another man after our marriage. The charges of fraud and bigamy weighed heavily on them. Initially, I had no intention of entangling with them further, only wanting Emily to leave empty-handed. But greed knows no bounds. Now, because Emily's lover knowingly cohabited with her despite her being married, he faced a 2-year prison sentence. Additionally, Emily had to repay the marital assets I spent on them and compensate me. On the day the court announced the final verdict, she looked utterly exhausted, a far cry from her once gentle and charming self. She silently approached me, her eyes swollen from sleepless nights.
Do you have to be so ruthless? My child can't grow up without a father.
Your child can't grow up without a father, but what about my child? He didn't even have a choice and lost his only life.
Emily was stunned by my words, her eyes instantly filled with tears.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I was thinking about the child. I couldn't fully commit to being a mother to 2 children. I loved you all these years, but I had no choice. Otherwise, I wouldn't have married you. I didn't mean to deceive you. Can you cancel the compensation? Otherwise, my child and I can't survive.
Love me? How laughable it sounded coming from her mouth. Whether she loved me or the money I gave her was unknown. Through my investigation, I learned that her lover was her childhood sweetheart. They had been together for a long time, but when they went to college, both their families were struggling financially. With my appearance, they plotted together to take advantage of me. When she told me she was going abroad for a year, she was actually preparing for pregnancy with her childhood sweetheart. After giving birth, she returned to marry me, achieving both financial and personal gains. The next time I saw Emily was at a street food market. She was carrying our child on her back, preparing skewers for customers.
Just passing by.
Can we talk?
She clung to my car door, leaving me no choice but to agree. I took her to a restaurant we used to frequent.
You're paying, right? Maybe you should order. I've almost forgotten what's good here.
She seemed uneasy, flipping through the menu repeatedly.
I've wronged you all along. I only realized later how much I hurt you.
I understand.
I can send the child to a welfare home, and I can have another child for you. Can we go back to how things were?
I took a sip of water and showed her the ring on my finger.
Sorry, I'm getting married soon. Meeting you today was an exception.
Thinking of my current fiancé, a soft expression crossed my eyes. After my divorce, I met my fiancé while collaborating on a project.
Why? Have you really forgotten our past? I said I can change, as long as we can be together again.
She's wonderful, and I love her very much.
Emily clutched her clothes nervously, unable to believe that I no longer cared about her. Suddenly, my fiancé appeared. I quickly stood up to greet her, helping her with her seat and ordering her favorite dishes. The child Emily had with her began to cry loudly, wanting to go home. I watched coldly, knowing that this child was Emily's own choice. Now, being disliked by the child she cared so much about, I wondered if she regretted her decision. After finishing our meal, I held my fiancé's hand and walked away, no longer wasting energy on the past. At that moment, I felt as if I had truly grasped my entire world.